James, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime, Neil, anytime.
I wanted to go through the life and times of James Courtney, but I want to start in the now rather than going all the way back to the start in the first instance. So we're heading now for you into Year 7 with Walkinshaw Racing, formerly the Holden Racing team. And I think only once in that period have you been inside the top 10 in the championship. And there's been some brilliant drives, but there's been some tough runs as well. Are you happy with the performance?
Oh, not winning, so obviously not entirely happy. But I've signed another deal, so obviously I can see, potential in the group that I think everyone in the industry could see within the organisation, the potential of it. So happy that I'm still there. Definitely unhappy with what we've achieved. We definitely should have achieved a lot more. And like you said, there's been ups and downs. There's helicopters, there's broken legs, there's all sorts of stuff that's kept us, outside of the 10 at different times. But I think there is the potential there to win the championship.
There's been some stunning drives, and I keep referring to that drive on the Saturday in Adelaide in 2016 where you had a great hit out with Jamie Whincup.
It's on for the lead here, and down the inside goes Courtney. This is an important move because Mostert's gone high and wide over the curb. Here comes Whincup, grabs a spot as well.
Trying to even out the consistency seems to have been the real challenge for you guys.
As a team, we've probably been focusing too much on each event rather than the whole championship. And yeah, just making sure our bad weekends are still pretty good is definitely the key. So, the goal this year is definitely to, ultimately win the championship, but to be fighting for podiums, be in the shootouts, be racing at the front, and concentrate on a year as a whole rather than, single-mindedly just looking at the weekend.
Let's roll back the onion layers here now and understand where you came from, what it was all about. How did you get the bug in the first instance?
Dad raced karts initially, so yeah, obviously, you idolise your parents or your father when you're a young bloke. So watching Big Jim race around in a go-kart, it's definitely gave me a hunger to race. Definitely, my dad was my first interest or step into racing.
And you jumped out of Australia after some local success very early. Went to Europe and won, which is a pretty amazing credential, a junior and a senior world title in karting, but at an incredibly young age.
Yeah, I left here when I was 14, 15. Went to Europe, like you said, won the karting world championship, and then pretty much stayed there until I came back here to Australia. So those 3 years or 4 years that I was racing in Europe in karting was amazing. I was 15, 14, 15, living by myself in Europe. It was good when mum and dad, you have an argument, you just hang up the phone and turn it off. Don't have to worry about it. But now being a parent, I realise the sacrifice my parents made for me to be able to do and chase my dreams was unbelievable.
Being an FIA world champion on 2 occasions, though, is a big deal. I guess that you got to race against some pretty big names and cool drivers. Yeah,
a lot of the guys that are still in F1 now, like Raikkonen, Alonso, both Nico and Lewis, we all sort of grew up in the same time and coming through the same era. So, it's been great to be able to race with those guys. Obviously, I'd like to be racing with them still now, but sure. But ultimately, yeah, it was definitely a great time through my younger career.
So from a motor racing perspective, it's a pretty cool thing to be able to go and do something like that, but you learn things also in terms of your day-to-day life. But did that create other deficiencies as well? The fact that you jumped out of Australia so early, you went over there on your own and you kind of pocketed in one little corner of the universe called professional motorsport. Did that create other problems for you?
Definitely schooling was a problem then. But I like to think I went to the school of life, so to speak. But yeah, look, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy. Through the week was fine when I was that age, mucking around in the factory. I had to go to the Tony Kart factory and work through the week. But then on the weekends, I was 15, I didn't have a car, I had no transport. I'd sit in an apartment by myself for, long weekends, sometimes it's 3 or 4 days. It's what I wanted to do. So it's, it's all worth it now.
I remember some early conversations where some mutual friends of ours got together and you got to the end of the kart deal and you wanted to go car racing. But then that's a really big problem for many young motor racers, aspiring motor racers, boys and girls in this country and every country. You had to find a way to break in, but you did, and you ultimately made your way back to Europe again for Formula Ford in Britain?
Mum and Dad sort of funded me in my early part of my career, and then had people look after me, and the karting manufacturers pay for my racing all through karting in Europe. And then Big Jim decided that I needed to come back to the real world and get a real job and get a trade under my belt, because we couldn't afford to go car racing. So through a friend, I got introduced to Alan Gow, who was running the British Touring Car Championship and quite a big player in world motorsport, and gave me two choices as to what my future could be, and obviously one was racing, and he would take me under his wing and would have a crack at 1 year where he would put his hand in his pocket and pay for my first year of Formula Ford, and then that was the only ever time he was going to do it. And if I was good enough, then a manufacturer or someone else would pick up the check. So I decided that was a much better way to or thing to do rather than go and work for my dad. So a couple of weeks later, I left with Alan, and we raced the British Formula Ford Championship, and everything kept going in the right direction at that point.
Won a championship.
We did. We won the British Formula Ford Championship. It's fantastic. The racing, you went from such an intense karting environment, which was just ridiculously tight, competitive, to then straight into the British Formula Ford Championship, which was equally as tough and competitive. It wasn't, the junior formula wasn't as diverse as what it is now. It was a lot more concentrated. So all the guys, the top guys that I raced in karting, all the Raikkonens, Buttons, all those guys, we all went to Formula Ford together and raced each other there. So all the battles that I had in the karting with those same group of guys continued into the British. Yeah, cars got a bit more expensive, and we got a bit older, but same group of guys.
Which led you to Formula 3, and that was the first time that you tripped over Adrian Burgess at a point as well. So tell me about the Formula 3 experience.
Yep, Formula 3 was again, I got picked up or asked by Jaguar Racing, which is now Red Bull, to do a test at the end of that year that I won the British Formula Ford Championship. There was 12 guys they were testing for their junior scholarship program. And so we had a little shootout. We went to Valencia and we all tested at Valencia. Then we all went to Hungary and tested at Hungary. And then at the end, they decided who they wanted to have. And I still remember that at Hungary, Valencia got rained out, so I didn't get to have a run. Went to Hungary, Budapest. There was ice on the track, and they're like, "Oh, we had to wait around." Anyway, it was my turn to go out, and they said, "All right, it's clear." So I was the first car out on the track, and didn't even complete the outlap and hit a big patch of ice and fired it into the fence, ripped the side out of the car. Nice. I remember sitting there thinking, "Oh my God, I've just destroyed whatever opportunity I had." And then Luciano Berti, who was the F1 driver at the time, comes past, and exactly the same thing happens to him, and he hits my car, and then it was. Tension was dropped then, and I got the drive, so it all worked out well.